Welcome back to Poddenham Podspur, the world-famous Tottenham Hotspur podcast about Tottenham Hotspur podcasts in what might be the last podcast I make, dramatic pause, as a Premier League podcast. Yeah, you can't get rid of me that easily. We're on the precipice here, folks. Big changes afoot. I've got big feelings about that big change. I'm not sure if I'll be able to express them as well as I want today. But I felt a need all week to talk about Spurs' final stab at staving off relegation this weekend as we take on Everton on the last day of the 25-26 Premier League season, as we sit 2 points above West Ham. One game left. We play Everton, they play Leeds. And it's been on my mind all week. It's just unshakable. The feeling of, it's not quite dread and it's not quite excitement. It's some weird chimera of both. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable space in which we find ourselves as Tottenham Hotspur fans this very week. I don't know how you're dealing with it. I hope you're able to find moments of calm when you're thinking about Spurs, maybe even enjoy bits here or there. I think depending on how you're wired, you might handle this situation differently. I tend to skew towards the more obsessive about Tottenham. And in general, I suppose, there's this thing called loops that your brain can get stuck in. Think of it like an earworm, but for thoughts. And I feel like I've got that this week with Spurs. You know, I have plenty of other things happening in my life. Don't get me wrong, we've talked about this before, but I think with this week, it feels like exam week, you know? When you're back in school or college or wherever, that feeling of tension leading up to a final exam, something big, you know. Except in this case, there's nothing you can do to affect the result. There's no late night cramming that you can do to, you know, wedge some more information into your brain or make Randall Kolo Muani bang in a goal, you know, to redeem his season. Sorry, Randall. You know, there's nothing we can do to affect what happens on Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning, Sunday night, depending on where you are in the world and where you're watching Spurs. It's powerless. There's a powerlessness about all of this that feels very, very frustrating, and not in a good type of powerlessness. You know, like last season, we saw Spurs, you know, pull off a huge victory and lift the Europa League, and maybe some of us were making excuses, too many excuses, for the league form. I stand by many of my excuses about finishing 17th, and I think they're borne out by the win and by comments from Ange and the players that they were prioritizing the Europa League. But the signs were there, the warnings were there, and I think there's plenty of validity for those people who think that 17th was not an aberration, because we've seen it again this year. Again, plenty of excuses, and we've heard them all. You don't need to hear them from me. You've heard them from your favorite podcasts. But I hope you're finding it. I hope you're finding this moment impactful. And I hope that you can use the energy and memories of this week to update how you view your Tottenham supporter status. Yeah, we've talked a lot, and this is something I find fascinating. And I've pointed to this too, that our squad, our club, our fan base isn't built for a relegation scrap because we don't have the mindset. And I've heard other people say that on podcasts too. The West Ham fans or Everton of a few years ago were ready and knew what to do because they'd been through a relegation fight before. And I do wonder if we can integrate some of that thinking for future seasons, whether we're competing for the top of the table or hopefully not, staving off the plummet to the next league down. Relegation. Such a horrible word. Because there's a lot of talk of bottling and Arsenal bottling things this past couple of weeks, hoping that they would throw the Premier League. But you can also hold your bottle in other ways. There's lots of different bottling. Are Spurs going to bottle it this Sunday? I don't know. Maybe I'll come to some kind of conclusion in this phone call. Phone call? Podcast. And I've been thinking a lot about that word, relegation. A lot. And not just in the sense of I don't want it. I've been scanning myself quite deeply in my thoughts. Mostly prompted by my friend Gareth. Gareth Dace of the Game is About Glory podcast. Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? And books of the same name. Check it out. Gareth's great. And Gareth is one of those people who I think you can point to and say he gets Tottenham. He really gets the fans. He spends a lot of time thinking about our culture and our history and our experiences as a historian of the club, but as a regular match goer. And as somebody who is, actively engaging with fans from all across the world, and he thinks about those things. And he posed a question, I think it was on Bluesky, and we had some private text message conversations about it too, about what it is regarding relegation that gets under your skin, that bothers you. And Gareth had a few hypotheses and ideas that he picked up from his conversations, and I'll throw in my thoughts afterwards. And I'll probably text these to Gareth as well, in case he doesn't have time to listen to this before Sunday, because I'm putting this out quite late, and I guess I should have talked about that sooner. I had, things to get off my chest, or at least the need to get behind a microphone and vomit up some words for your listening pleasure, at least for my own sense of catharsis. I've been working a lot recently on trying to be much more honest in my life, with work, with family, with whoever. And obviously I'm on a podcast spilling my emotional guts up regularly, but I often go into it in quite a structured way. And I have some notes today, but you can probably tell by my tone of voice and cadence, this is a little bit more freeform. I'm trying to just dig deep and give you some thoughts. So with Gareth's permission, he, after having conversations with various different people about a relegation, I don't want to call it the R word. I keep wanting to call it the R word, but I feel like that diminishes other much more serious words. So if I do slip into that, I apologize. So Gareth identified several things. So just a sheer anger at the board's incompetence. This was inevitable to a certain extent because of all the bad decisions that have been made over many years, and you've heard them from various places. I've talked about the board a lot. I've talked about Daniel Levy's decisions and his legacy. Some good, some bad, but we know the recent decisions from Langer, from medical stuff, pitches. I don't know. All sorts of bad decisions. Squad investment, who we invest, how we chase them. Sense of embarrassment he's heard. There's a fear that we'll continue to spiral. And I wanted to project some positivity. Now, this little section here, I think, is going to get into some negativity, and I apologize. But yeah, how that'll impact potential growth of the culture and fan base itself. Are people gonna want to be fans of Tottenham Hotspur if we're this sad sack of shit? I don't know. I think at least in the short term that will take a hit, but it probably will take a hit now anyway. Financial implications. There's been so much focus on the gulf in revenue and income that will take as being not receiving payments for Europe, but also not receiving payments for the Premier League TV revenues, match going revenues going down, people buying less kits, less engagement with club products, and that's huge. And I think it's a bit overblown, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but the signs aren't good. Especially as I think next year we need to renew our front of shirt sponsor, which is massive. Loss of prestige as a top club, as a Premier League ever present. It's us, I think Everton, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, maybe. I'm probably missing somebody. Oh, it's that red bunch, isn't it? And then just what it means for the drop off in quality of the squad. With the relegation, we'll lose some of our best players, and we may hate them right now, but they're still our best players. Those will be the ones we lose. We'll keep the ones who are not quite so good, and what that will mean for squad rebuilding and the short term to medium term impact. And I think that's all really true. And what Gareth has identified, I think, is quite a complex mixture of fears and strong emotional gut reactions to being relegated for Spurs fans specifically. I think that there's some of the stuff that you could say is somewhat transferable amongst any club to more or lessening more or less depending on the club, right? Like Burnley's drop off in quality, their fall in quality from what they've got in their Premier League squad to what they would have in a Championship squad is smaller, because they've only recently, they would have only recently come up, versus Tottenham, who have got players on £200,000 a week, World Cup winners, stuff like that. So that's fair. The Premier League ever present status is unique to us. And so this was a conversation. This was a conversation from weeks ago. Trying to think when it was. I mean, months and months. I was hoping to not really talk about this too much, more as a rear view mirror situation. But sadly, we find ourselves talking about it in the present. I was hoping to talk about it in the summer when, after we survived relegation with a few games to go, and it was all kind of something that we could look back on and shudder, but hand wave away and run off into the sunset for glory. But now we're living it. So for me, and I spent a lot of time thinking about this, because I do like to think about not just how I feel. Do I feel angry about something? Do I feel happy about something? I do like to think why. Especially with a negative emotion. I like and have been trained to dissect it. And so for me, I do agree with quite a lot of what Gareth's saying there, but my primary drivers, I think, is that fear of the unknown. He mentioned the spiral that might happen, but that's kind of catastrophizing. For me, it's more about, I don't know what comes next. It could be a spiral. It could be staying up and going down next season. It could be staying up and being mediocre. Could be great. It could be the catalyst the club needs to go down and come back up, to reset, have a cultural reset, have a mental reset of what we are, maybe. Or maybe we'll just push on and this will just be a blip. But it's that unknown, I think, is really scaring me, and the powerlessness of it all. We talked about being angry at other people's decisions, but even with fan protests, it's where we've been shown to be powerless against a lot of this that's happened. The Roberto De Zerbi pushback came to naught, and he's been a good appointment from a footballing sense, but I think that a lot of people are still either not engaging with Spurs because of it, or are engaging with Spurs in a completely different way because of his appointment. But we don't need to relitigate old stuff. But there's a powerlessness there. The protests from Change for Tottenham, was that why Levy was removed? I don't think so. I think it was possibly the Lewises and Enoch identifying this downward trend and thinking it was time for him to go, and blaming him for this rather than themselves. The banter, I think, is huge. My nemesis at my kid's school, he's probably, I don't know, 7 or 8, and he's been mugging me off every day for about 6 weeks now. He shouts, oh, here comes the Tottenham fan, and you're going to get relegated and all this crap. And I'm taking it from an 8-year-old, and I was really hoping to shove it in his face recently, but Fucking Gooners won the league. We could get relegated. It's just disgusting. God, I don't even know his name, but I hate him. Hate him so much. So yeah, the banter gets to me. But it's more about shame than it is about the embarrassment. I think on because it'll validate everything that club has been said about us for years, about being Spursy, about being fuck ups and all this other stuff, and that really annoys me. But it makes me feel shame. Makes me, I don't very often feel shame as a Tottenham Hotspur supporter because we have been so competitive. Even in the Champions League final, I didn't feel ashamed that we lost that final. I felt pride that we got there, and I felt disappointment. And actually, while I'm thinking about the Champions League final, I have a question for newer fans, especially. What strikes you harder as a Spurs fan? What makes you feel worse? The losing the Champions League final back in 2019 or Arsenal winning the league this year? Because I was thinking about it recently and I was struck by how little I've cared about Arsenal winning the league. I've been annoyed by that Gooner kid, don't get me wrong, but I remember living through it. So maybe this is why maybe I've been inoculated for all those years under Wenger. This doesn't seem like that big a deal anymore. It sucks. But, they're a huge club and this was bound to happen sooner or later. There's almost that point of them winning it in the most, sloppy, archaic, pewless ball, meat wall crap, just like stodging it up with free kicks and wasting their talent that they've got. They still control games, they're still excellent footballers, but they resort to these disgusting tactics, and maybe that's what's lessened it. Or perhaps just the distraction of us, potentially going down has just made it seem far less significant. It's like that sort of, it's like the context that you need from stuff that happens in your real life and remembering this is just football. Except it's in football. But yeah, there's a sense of shame, and I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy that being put upon me. Powerlessness I've talked about. I really do wonder if it's a little bit of the status quo change I mentioned earlier, Premier League status, being an ever present, and I think that there's like a sense of identity I take into myself as a Tottenham Hotspur fan because we haven't been the most glorious in terms of trophies in the last 20 or so years. A League Cup and a Europa League for a club of our size is probably underperforming somewhat. It's come at the time of the rise of the petrostate and money doping in football, but still, for our size, we possibly should have competed more strongly than we did for honours and picked up something under Pochettino. So I think for that reason, being an elite club that's always been in the Premier League, that is always at the top of the table, is a huge part of my identity as a football fan. And this comes back to the fear of the unknown. I don't know what my identity as a Spurs fan will look like if we're a championship club. I'll still love the club. I'll still love the fans. I'll still love the history. I'll still celebrate every win. But my cognitive framing of what it means to be a Spurs fan will change quite substantially depending on how next season went. Like if we go down and we absolutely boss it and we win all the time and all that kind of stuff, like that would be validating of we are a Premier League club, and this was a confluence of mistakes and bad luck. But if we go down, we've changed fundamentally as a football club. If you go down and stay down, fear of the unknown mixing with identity there, and that's just a potent combination. On the flip side, if we stay up, and I should try to stay positive here, I talked on Wicked Spursy earlier in the week. Check it out. I'm on there as a regular co-host now, and I will hope to be reviewing a win against Everton with the boys on Sunday night or Monday, depending on our schedules. I should project some calm and some positivity. If we do stay up, I think it will be a tremendous sense of relief, a source of joy for us. I think that there's a lot of people saying we shouldn't celebrate it. I think we as fans should celebrate ourselves of having got through it. We don't have to celebrate the lads on the pitch as heroes or anything like that. You could possibly, if you're that way inclined, point to De Zerbi's turnaround. and you could possibly pick up on players that you like as heroes who saved us. Fine, but I think you can celebrate the season being over. You can celebrate getting one over West Ham. I'll get on the West Ham in a minute. And I think, you know what? We always talk about people policing other people's fandom and enjoyment. Don't enjoy winning the Europa League. It's only a second tier cup. So what? If somebody wants to celebrate staying up, they should celebrate staying up. And I hope we do. I'm trying to talk myself into being positive about this. Because I think, especially because I'm recording this at like 9:45 at night on a Friday night, I'm just a little bit low energy. Speaking of positivity, the club has tried to cultivate some positivity within us by asking the fans to come out on Sunday afternoon. Was it Sunday at 4? And greet the lads on the coach again, just like they did before the Notts Forest game. And I can't say that I am relishing the idea of it. I'm curious to see what the turnout will be. I think there'll be a few people who were burned by that experience. So I don't know if the turnout will be quite as strong as it was. And it's interesting to me that De Zerbi asked for this. I know that Flav and Dan Kilpatrick on the lab this week talked about both of them having spoken, or their colleagues having spoken with sports psychologists and talking about how building this up can actually add pressure that you don't need, and especially in a relegation fight. And I tend to agree with it. I find it interesting that De Zerbi has asked for it. It must be reflecting something from the players, maybe creating an atmosphere in the stadium, from minute one, perhaps. Just getting everybody on board. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm a fan of it. I think that it blew up in our face against Notts Forest, and it's got me worried. Same if there's a TIFO or something. I'm not sure what THFC flags are cooking up. I don't want a TIFO. I agree with Jack on Rule the Roost, friend of the show, that we should save those for joyous events. Because I think that you'll just remember a cool TIFO and on the day we lost to Everton and went down. It's not something we. I don't think we should tarnish it. I think we should overuse it. I did find it interesting that Jim on Also Spurs, who after the Notts Forest coach greeting, he talked about how the club got involved in that and kind of ruined it a little bit. Didn't make any comments about it this time and whether it was a good idea or not. I didn't get that sense from his various pods on Also Spurs this week, but maybe that's being unfair to Jim. He's done some great work recently. Speaking of great work, I'm going to segue into a new podcast that came out this week called Hotspur, hosted by Polyphinosaur, one of my Bluesky followers and co-followers, mutuals, I guess they're called, and must be a fan of Poddenham and Podspur because he's created a 5 to 10 minute reaction pod, essentially to podcasts I put out. So we've reached a new level of layers of meta. We've got a podcast about podcasts. People, we're through the looking glass. It's good. He's got a great voice. He makes really good points. He talked himself down, saying he was, recording it on his phone and on a voice note, and he sounded great. Made really good points. I hope he keeps doing it when he feels like he can, and he has something to say. Go check it out. Yeah, it's the same as my username on Bluesky, Ian Spur. It's a little weird. I have to tell you, I have never felt more tense than when I opened up that podcast and listened to it for the 6 minutes or so that it played for. I was so terrified of what he was going to say, whether it was going to be criticisms or making fun of me or something else. It was genuine and lovely in the end, and I think that was great. But I was so worried. I was going to get called out for saying something incorrect or getting a fact wrong or something. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I know a few people have already listened to it, so I hope you enjoyed it. I should wrap this up, but because I'm I'm going to be at risk of recording a section talking about the podcast, talking about my podcast that is longer than that podcast. So yeah, good work. Go check it out. Maybe I'll try to remember to link it in the show notes. But he talked about Polyphinosaur, Thank you for I finally know how to say your name. I thought it was like Polyphinosaur. I don't know why I thought that. Or Venusaur? I don't know. Uh, he asked the question of whether championship football would really be that bad. You know, a year of possibly winning more games, of playing some good football, hopefully going to interesting stadiums and hosting new teams at White Hart Lane, new White Hart Lane. And I agree with him in principle. In practice, I think it comes back to that Premier League status thing. It would almost feel like slumming it for a year. But yeah, I mean, there shouldn't be any shame in playing at these grounds. Maybe getting relegated is something else. But a lot of those teams are ex-Premier League teams. Portsmouth, Blackburn, Birmingham, another one. Not Leicester. But yeah, you know, like it could be fun. It could be, and you know, if it happens, we should embrace it and enjoy it and create that atmosphere and make it a good day out. You know, hopefully see some goals, maybe see some new faces in the squad. Maybe see some kids break through and become, you know, just start their journey to being Tottenham legends, like a Mikey Moore or somebody. So I think if it happens, if the worst happens on Sunday and we do go down, if that one scenario out of 9 plays out where we lose and West Ham win, there should be a period of time of anger and dissection and mourning of our status being lost. But at a certain point, we're going to have to embrace where we are. And of course, some of that will come after that first game of the season. And hopefully we pick up a win and hopefully we're dominant and we can just roll on with the positivity. But as a fan base, I think we would have to meet the situation where it's at. But I don't want to talk about that too much right now because, first of all, I hope it doesn't happen. I don't want to waste your time. But second of all, that would be great content for another day. So thank you, Polyphinosaur, for your great little podcast about my podcast and prompting some discussion. I'm going to just break really quick here and do a little bit of more self-promotion. If you got this far, 30 minutes into this podcast of rambling, I hope you don't think I'm being too negative. I'm just trying to explore some negative emotions. But if you like what you hear and you haven't already, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. This should be everywhere. It's even on YouTube with all 17 of my subscribers. God bless you if you listen to the show on YouTube. You're God's bravest soldiers finding me amongst the sea of much better Spurs content over on YouTube. But yeah, follow me over there. Follow the show on Bluesky at poddenham.bsky.social. Email me, poddenham.podspur at gmail.com. Just drop me comments, whatever, likes, shares, all those things really help the show to keep growing, to get the word out. Comments are always fun. I like comments, even when they're challenging. And yeah, do all that. Maybe you can point me to a new podcast that I haven't checked out yet. All good stuff. So West Ham. Why did it have to be West Ham amongst all this? That was my gut reaction to this situation, aside from oh fuck. But why did it have to be West Ham that we're battling with relegation? Why couldn't it have been Leeds or another club that we don't have that relationship with? Because West Ham is such a funny entity as a Spurs fan. They've always been much more interested in having us as a rival, I feel, than we have as having them as our rival. For me, when I think about it, it's Arsenal, Chelsea, close second, and then a distant third, West Ham. It's not that I don't care about them. It's not that I don't respect their history. I have other teams that I care about a lot more. And I know this is like the life of a Spurs fan. Oh my God, why does everybody hate us? Why does Southampton hate us? Why do Leicester hate us? Why do now Nottingham Forest hate us? I've said Leeds. It's going to turn out that Leeds fucking hate us because of hooliganism or something. I don't know. There's something, but why did it have to be them? Why did it have to be West Ham? Because it validates and it creates that rivalry. It adds fuel to it that I don't want to be there in the first place. Now we've got this thing, and it's going to mean that whoever goes down and when they come back up, and I think in the case of Spurs and West Ham, Both of them at some point will come back up into the Premier League and cross paths again. But there's going to be the banter. There's going to be more rivalry there. There's going to be a drive to get one over the team that sent you down. You know, like it's adding to it. Like we didn't already have enough of it from Lasagna Gate. And yeah, I've said it. But like going back 20 odd years, you know, like we played them last game of the season, right? It's just fucking had to lose to them and finish below Arsenal that season. Like it just sucks. It sucks that it's West Ham. And what sucks even more is that it doesn't feel like, for me, I don't feel like we're playing Everton this season, like this coming weekend. We don't have to outscore Everton necessarily. It feels like we have to outscore West Ham. It's weird. It's just really it's an odd situation where I'm thinking about the team that we're not playing much more than the team we are. Because like I know there's stuff with Everton, like David Moyes is an ex-West Ham coach, and he's talked about wanting to, you know, help them stay up, and that's fine. I get it. I don't know if it's really going to change his approach all that much, because he just wants to get his win bonuses and do as much as he can with Everton. I don't think he's got a hard on for hating Spurs or anything, as far as I know. I've heard that their striker, what is it, Barry or whatever his name is a big Arsenal fan, supposedly. How that really matters anymore in professional football, I don't know. I know Jack Grealish isn't going to be playing. I think he's injured or something, so that's good considering of our history of trying to sign him. And he was a bad influence on a few Everton players, taking them out to a skin joint, a strip club on what, Thursday night. So he's been a bit of a bad influence on Pickford and that. But I just haven't really thought about Everton that much beyond them being this obstacle we have to overcome. I don't know. It's just weird. It's really weird. And you know, like there's a lot of stuff. I mean, again, I'm thinking a lot more about West Ham, and I can loop back to them. Yeah, there's all this stuff with the racism and the anti-Semitism that they throw towards us. And I just feel like them as a derby team, as a rival, it just feels a little beneath us. You know, they're not an elite club like Arsenal or Chelsea are. They are a mid-table club. Sorry, West Ham fans. I'm sure you're listening to this and thinking I'm a fucking knobhead. And I am. But it doesn't feel like a top-tier elite like rivalry, because we've got enough London teams that we could be, you know, have a rivalry with, that don't have to be, you know, Chelsea, for example. I mean, that's born out of history and interactions between the clubs over the years. The FA Cup final, first ever London one, us relegating them, you know, all that stuff. I mean, maybe this is the birth of a new, much more intense rivalry with West Ham, this moment we're living in. Yeah, I'm not sure. I was invited onto a podcast, YouTube podcast called, I think it's like EPL Across the Pond or something, an American pod. They reached out through the supporters club I run, and they asked me to come on and talk alongside a West Ham fan. And I was kind of interested. I'm always looking to get the word out about the show. But in the end, I thought, you know what? Let's just try and put as many barriers to me getting on there and getting mugged off as I can. So, you know, I asked them to push it back and stuff, and they couldn't. So I was able to be polite and show an interest, but not actually have to do it. But I don't know. I haven't talked to a West Ham fan in ages. Maybe that's the nice thing about being overseas right now, is that distance. I'm getting mugged off by 8-year-olds, but not 8-year-old West Ham fans. So I think that's kind of all I want to say. I want a sense of destiny here. I want us to control it. I'm glad that we're in the driver's seat and we're not relying upon West Ham being 2 points ahead of us and we're us having to get a win out of it. You know, I'm kind of pleased about that. That's a relief. And I think we should be able to get something out of Everton. Whether we do or not is a different matter. I think I'm a little uncertain. I'm a little unclear. I'm a big believer in narratives in football driving results. And there are a few narratives at play, and I'll get onto a positive one in a moment. But a good example of that would be, I think, the sense of momentum that I felt leading into the Europa League final. That was the most confident I've ever been going into a cup final in my life. I had hope for the Champions League final. I remember even the League Cup final against Chelsea back in 2008. I don't remember being super confident because we're up against, that Chelsea team, Mourinho's Chelsea or whatever it was. Like they were amazing, but there was a sense of a story coming together, like the end of a journey almost under Ange. Maybe that's why he should have left, because there was, in the end, it became quite a nice little end to his story, in a way. Some people might disagree with that, but there's a bookmark or a bookend to it. But there was a sense of narrative building over the year, the trials and tribulations, the injuries, and saying he always wins something. Like, it gave us that sense of hope, real hope, genuine belief going into it. I don't know if I quite feel that this week, and I would say that the mood around the club, at least in the online spaces and the groups that I'm seeing, is like a real sense of nervousness. There's not a lot of people being confident about getting something out of Everton, and maybe that's because we've been burned recently and we just lost to Chelsea. And I'm a little bit tired. I spoke about this on Bluesky earlier today on Friday. I'm a little tired of people whinging about the same shit over and over again. Referees, it's Michael Oliver. Oh, did you know we had this win percentage under him? Did you know that this happened? Like, oh my God, give it up. Look at this other angle of the corner that got taken when Cucurella pulled down Mickey van der Ven. Yeah, we all fucking saw it, man. We saw it. We heard the decision. You agree with it or not? We don't need to pour over it again and again and again for you to be able to farm karma. And actually, I'm going to rail here a little bit against the mods of r/Coys on Reddit. I think they've done a really piss poor job recently of keeping out low effort posts and keeping the whining to a minimum. And that's not me whining. That's me saying that they've made r/Coys an even less enjoyable place to go for Spurs content. There's some real assholes over there as well, but not everybody. There's a lot of good people doing good, sharing good thoughts and love and passion about Spurs, but there's an awful lot of what seems to be like 15-year-olds online who are filling up that space with memes and crap. So sort it out and let me post my podcast more often. So I'm a big believer in narrative, and I'm not getting that sense of the narrative building that Spurs are going to stay up. I don't. But the one positive narrative that my brain keeps latching onto, and I don't think I'm alone in this, is James Maddison's narrative, and that might be what carries us over the line. He's been through professional hell and probably personal hell too, but in the last year, having his life torn apart from his ACL injury, second knee injury in quick succession, taking out a long period of his peak years. He missed out on being at the Europa League final, playing in it. I think he missed the FA Cup final with Leicester too, because he hadn't quite signed yet. Great guy, great person around the club. I talked last time I came on about the way that he and his team has built his narrative through his YouTube videos and pulled us into it. And there's that sense that, man, could he come on at halftime or give us 30 minutes and score the winning goal? Like, that's the narrative that I feel like he's because he's threatened it as well. He probably should have had a penalty against Leeds. Last minute, chance against Chelsea relatively late in the game. Is there going to be something against Everton on Sunday? Is he going to get that free kick and bend it into the top corner? Is he going to get that moment or that cross for Richarlison or somebody to tap into the back of the net? I keep coming back to that, and that's what's keeping me going. That narrative, I feel it. I don't know. We're gonna have to see. I got a lot of uncertainty about what that game's gonna look like, more so than usual. We have a good record against Everton, but there's that feeling that we're just gonna fuck it up one last time that I can't shake. And I know that we need a lot of things to go against us in that game and in West Ham's game. But man, haven't we seen enough things go against us? I should have finished with the James Maddison stuff. Sorry for the negativity. I don't know who's going to play. Honestly, I'm expecting it probably to be the same as what we rolled out against Chelsea. I don't think he's gonna bench Kolo Muani. I don't think Spencer's going to suddenly come in and play right wing from the start. He's not going to start James Maddison. I doubt he's going to start Solanke. And I think he's going to play Paulinho. And so is that team enough for Everton? Maybe. Like I said, I'm aware of Grealish being out potentially. So that might be good. And I know they're in bad form. I think it's that first goal. Whoever gets the first goal out of us or West Ham is going to be crucial. And it's not us or Everton necessarily. I mean, I guess if Everton score, that's going to boost West Ham. But I think to a certain extent, that feeling through the White Hart Lane crowd, I think is going to make a big difference. It's going to make a huge difference. So we'll see. But I think I can see us doing like a 2-1 win, maybe a 1-1 draw, and that would be enough. And that would just be enough. And we'll savor it and drink it in and say not even goodbye, just toodle fuck off to this season and hope that we never live through this again. So I hope that this podcast, a bit of a shorter one today, I hope it gives you something to think about on Saturday and Sunday morning as we, count down the hours to this, finally getting some closure on this season of, are we staying up or are we not? I hope it's helped you. I did invite a few people. I didn't invite a few people. I invited as many people as I could to share a few words for the show. So some people wrote in, and I'll read those out first. And a few other people sent in recordings for me to share. And I'm very thankful to all of them. I just wanted to give a space at the last minute for people who either have a platform and aren't necessarily going to record, or don't have a platform and just feel like they have something they want to say to the wider Spurs community. Not that I have that big a following, but I have a platform and I wanted to use it. And this show has always been about fans primarily. That's why it's a podcast about podcasts and not just a podcast about Spurs. I'm interested in Spurs fans, and I wanted to give them some space to talk about their feelings leading up to this game. Kind of wish I did it for the Europa League final, but I've matured as a podcaster, I think. So the first one I'm going to read out is from Mark Scrivens. Thank you, Mark. He said 3 things to keep in mind. 1, in 8 of 9 win-loss draw scenarios, we won't be relegated, so we won't be. 2, if we are relegated, it's largely as a result of an unprecedented spate of injuries, and plucky Spurs will bear down next season, rejoin the Premier League, and then go on to glory. 3, see point number 1. So thank you, Mark. And then I've also got something here. I want to read it out from Mumco. Let me just try and find it real quick. This is engaging content, isn't it? Okay. So first of all, hope he's recovering well from his medical stuff. This is mumco.bsky.social. He says he's confident of Spurs staying up. Once you have the belief, nothing could make you nervous again. It's a matter of faith. Remove all distractions as a background noise. Concentrate in the relief that this season is over, and you'll get there. And we will get there. We're going to get there real soon. 2 more sleeps, baby. So yeah, thank you to you guys for writing in. And I got 2 recordings, one from Neb Economou, the musical maestro behind my theme tune. So I haven't heard that yet. So whatever Neb's got to say, great. I'll put it in. I've committed myself. He might just be making fart noises for 5 minutes. I don't know. And also Owen from Yaps, yet another podcast about Spurs. And I thank them both for contributing something to the end of this show. Because first of all, it's easy content for me if somebody else makes it. But second of all, this is about us now for the next, 48 hours. It's about Spurs fans and Spurs. It's all together always. Up the Spurs.
Hey, Ian. Long-time theme song composer. first time caller. It's your boy Neb. Just been kind of reflecting on various techniques I've employed to make it through the season. And we're almost there. We got one more. And I found that the most effective thing has been a little something I like to call picking something up and tossing it into the other hand. And it sounds complex, but it's not. And it is not juggling. I need to be clear right there. It's not, you can still have self-respect, but when you're watching the game and you just need to stay calm, you just pick something up, you toss it in the air, and you catch it with the other hand. Bonus points if it's in the periphery of your vision, and like a real slick. Just kind of feel like Fonzie. Seems like a thing Fonzie would do. And Fonzie's cool. Fonzie is relaxed. And that's what we need to be on this final day. Death comes for us all in the end. Come on, you Spurs.
Hi Ian and you lovely Poddenham Podspur listeners, it's Owen from Yaps here, calling in to give you my thoughts on the last game of the season against Everton at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I've always been fairly bullish in my belief that Tottenham are going to stay in the Premier League. I've long said that I don't think we're going to get relegated, and I haven't changed my thoughts on that. I think we're well capable of beating Everton on Sunday. We've already beat them once this season and beat them comfortably at that. They're not a bad side, but we do have it in us. And remember, last time we had the awful manager that was Thomas Frank in charge. We don't even really need to beat them, do we? We only need to draw. And even if the worst happens and we lose, West Ham have still got to beat Leeds to send us down, which I don't think will happen because Leeds are a pretty good side this season. So I'm feeling positive. I'm hoping everyone else is feeling a bit positive too. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. It's going to be a lovely day on Sunday. The sun's going to be shining. I hope everyone who goes along to the stadium has a chance to meet up with their friends, enjoy their time, enjoy the game, see some good football being played, and hopefully see a Spurs victory. So if you are going, please do enjoy the game. Have a great time. Cheer on the boys for me. And come on, you Spurs. We'll see you in the Premier League next season.
Why are there so many podcasts about Tottenham? Do I want to know why? They might contain insight, but mostly delusions. If I hear one more, I might die. They don't like Levy and they don't like Enoch. They pine for Moo and Conte. Someday we'll like 'em, old Tottenham Hotspur, the podcast clout chasers and me.